Have you ever wondered why change feels so far away, even when you're doing all the right things? You drink the water, you meditate for a few minutes, you take the walk instead of scrolling, and yet nothing seems to shift overnight. You whisper to yourself, does this even count? But here's the truth no one explained. The universe is not measuring speed, it is listening for rhythm, for the steady pulse of your choices. Every tiny act, every subtle alignment, sends a current through the field around you, whether you feel it or not. This is the unseen ripple, the law that no action is ever isolated. Each decision, however small, releases a chain of vibrations that travel far beyond you. They reach forward into your future. They call forth the people you will meet, the chances you cannot yet imagine. Picture yourself at the edge of a quiet lake. You let go of a pebble, small and almost weightless. The water stirs, spreading circles in every direction. You cannot command where the waves will touch, yet they touch everything. That's what happens each time you honor your future self in the present moment. A sip of water, a journal entry, a single pause before reacting. The universe doesn't measure the size of your gesture. It responds to the frequency you are carrying, and above all, to the consistency of that signal. It isn't intensity that transforms you. It is coherence. Not one healthy meal, but the echo it creates when you choose again and again with awareness. Over time, the ripples gather. They merge into a new wave, a wave strong enough to carry you into a timeline unreachable by effort alone. Imagine tomorrow you decide, quietly, without ritual, to sit for 3 minutes in stillness before the day begins. Not to manifest riches, not to become enlightened, simply to meet yourself. That choice plants a vibration. The day opens a little softer. Perhaps you don't raise your voice at your partner. Perhaps you choose a brighter breakfast. And from that clarity, an idea finds you. You send the email you were delaying. A response comes. A door you didn't see before begins to open. From the starting line, it looked like nothing was happening. But everything was. This is the paradox. The smallest gestures often carry the heaviest weight. Repeated with presence, they teach the field a new song. And the field, sensitive, intelligent, unceasingly responsive, reshapes itself to match your frequency. We are taught that transformation comes in explosions, in breakthroughs and collapses. But the quantum doesn't move in drama. It moves in vibration, quiet, subtle, certain. To choose a new path before proof appears, that is the essence of a habit, not a routine, not a trick for productivity, but a daily declaration of who you are becoming. Each habit is a declaration whispered to the universe. This is who I've chosen to be. And when that signal is carried long enough, reality begins to fold itself into coherence with it. Nothing is wasted, not a single breath, not a single step, not a single moment of choosing alignment. Every act is a pebble, every gesture is a ripple. Together they are shaping a lake you cannot yet see. The turning point comes when you stop searching for proof in the moment and begin trusting the quiet law of compounding vibration. Because eventually those ripples merge into a current so strong it carries you beyond the reality you thought you were trapped inside. So if you've been waiting for the grand breakthrough, pause, breathe, drop a new pebble today, drink the water, stretch for a minute, read a single paragraph from the book you've been avoiding. Close your eyes for 90 seconds of silence. These are not trivial acts. They are quantum signals declaring, this is who I am now. And the universe never fails to hear declarations of identity spoken in frequency. In the next moments, we'll explore how invisible waves of habit shape a life in ways effort alone never could. You'll see why the rituals that matter most often look the smallest. And you'll learn how to turn a daily life into a quiet dance of alignment, one ripple at a time. There is a hidden magic inside the ordinary, if only you learn how to look. The way you brush your teeth, the way you pour your morning coffee, the way you speak to yourself before the world speaks back. These moments rarely look powerful. They rarely feel spiritual. But in the quantum, they are. Because each subtle behavior is a broadcast, and the field is always listening, even when your mind is not. Modern science might call this habit stacking, a way of linking small actions into lasting change. But in the language of energy, it is vibrational sequencing, an invisible weave of choices pulling you toward harmony or scattering you into disorder. And that direction builds with time, not through explosions, not through dramatic leaps, but through gentle, almost imperceptible layers. You wake late, you skip your breath, you reach for your phone, your nervous system tightens, and you enter the field of your day already out of tune. You feel behind, restless, irritable. And later, even when you try to reset with affirmations, with food, with meditation, it doesn't quite land because the ripple has already begun. The sequence is set. But imagine the same morning unfolding differently. You wake with both feet grounded. You pause, you breathe. You speak something kind into the silence. Today I align. You drink your water with intention. You listen, not to the noise outside, but to the wisdom inside your body. In that simple shift, the trajectory changes. Not just in mood, not just in thought, but in vibration. And the ripple you have just set in motion won't only soften your morning, it may reach forward and shift an opportunity waiting for you 5 days from now. You just shifted the timeline without effort. You practiced a kind of quantum butterfly effect, and it began inside your everyday routine. It isn't random, it's resonance. The field doesn't respond to how big the action looks. It responds to precision, to the way your energy is gathered instead of scattered. Because impact is never about doing more. It's about being whole inside the doing. Think of this in your own life. Skip the morning stretch and suddenly your food choices slip. Sleep late and you hear a harsher voice in your mind. Miss your journaling and you find yourself reacting instead of responding. These are not accidents. They are cascades of vibration. Your system compensates from a lower frequency, and it begins to fracture in small ways. The truth is, no habit stands alone. Every choice touches the next. Every vibration becomes a thread, weaving the fabric of your day. Each action turns into a tuning fork, shaping the energy of every room you walk into. And here's the misunderstanding. Most people believe they need the one breakthrough habit, the dramatic shift that changes everything. But quantum reality doesn't move in explosions, it moves in anchors. The first spark that recalibrates the next dozen micro decisions. This is why your morning matters. Not because routines are fashionable, but because your first frequency sets the tone for the entire field of your day. If your entry is scattered, the field echoes chaos. If your entry is present, the field mirrors clarity. It isn't cosmic judgment, it's simple resonance. This doesn't mean your mornings must be perfect. You don't need mountaintop meditations or elaborate rituals. What you need is a conscious entrance into your own life. And that can take less than a minute. A breath, a sentence of truth, a single act that signals presence. That seed carries forward. A mindful sip of water makes your next meal more intentional. That clarity makes your next conversation gentler. That softness shapes your afternoon, which leads you to finally send the message, which opens a door, which shifts your future. Not because you forced it, but because you planted it in the way you touched your morning coffee. This is the hidden sacredness of daily life. The ripple effect is not mystical, it's mechanical. The universe amplifies what you embody, not someday, but instantly. The field has no judgment. It only reflects, only calibrates, returning the frequency you send most consistently. So the question arises, what signal are you broadcasting? In the next moments, we'll explore what happens when ripples are not just created, but repeated, refined, trusted, not for a week, but as a new rhythm of being. You'll see how the smallest becomes magnetic, how the unseen becomes inevitable, how your daily gestures become the foundation of the future self you long to meet. You don't need a revolution, you need a rhythm so steady, so precise, so alive, that the field itself has no choice but to respond. Because what you repeat with presence becomes sacred, and what becomes sacred reshapes reality. Let's dissolve the old myth of go big or go home. In the quantum field, going small with coherence will always outweigh going big with chaos, because here, alignment multiplies, and often the tiniest shift carries the loudest echo. You don't have to force belief. You only need to remember this. Let me show you. There was once a woman who thought her creativity had vanished. For years, her notebooks remained empty. Each time she imagined writing, the thought of a whole book crushed her spirit. I don't have the time. I don't even know where to start, so she never began. Until one day she made a promise. 5 minutes of journaling. No rules, no deadlines, just presence with her own words. At first it felt hollow. By the second week, her language softened. By the third, the current broke open. Ideas returned. Old energy moved. Within a year, she held a manuscript in her hands. Today, her voice carries to thousands. And it began with one choice: to make the small sacred. Another man felt estranged from his body, ashamed of the years he had let slip by. He didn't buy expensive gear or sign up for a trainer. He simply walked. 10 minutes a day, rain or shine, shoes on, music low, no agenda but movement. Not to impress, not to punish, but because his body was tired of waiting for the perfect plan. That walk grew into 30 minutes. Water replaced soda, meals shifted. 2 years later, not only had his body transformed, he became a guide for others, not through discipline, but through presence. Then there was the young woman who set down her daily latte, not from guilt, but from intention. Each day, she redirected $6 into savings. She watched the number grow, not just in money, but in pride. The habit deepened into learning about investments, reshaping her spending identity. One choice evolved into enough capital to launch her dream business. What unites these stories? None of them began with grand gestures. They began with a decision to anchor energy into form, not once, but again and again. In the quantum field, consistency is identity, and identity is what collapses possibility into reality. The mistake so many make is waiting to feel inspired, but inspiration is fickle. It flares and fades. Sacred habits don't depend on motivation. They are fueled by meaning. You give meaning to a habit by choosing it, especially when it feels quiet, unimpressive, ordinary. That is when it becomes part of your energetic signature. The field isn't counting how many times you act. It is attuning to the rhythm you repeat. So the question arises, can you be trusted with the small? Because if you can, the field will entrust you with the large. This is why ancient practices center on repetition. The chant, the breath, the bow, the flame. It was never about the action itself. It was always about the frequency it carries, the way it whispers, I remember who I am. I have arrived once more. I return again. I choose again. Over time, this choice becomes a gravity. You become magnetic to the timeline that belongs to you. This is why your 5-minute meditation matters, why drinking water matters, why pausing before a reaction is sacred. Each act is a ripple, each ripple a recalibration. Each recalibration draws you closer to the self who already lives in sovereignty, not through force, but through vibration. So if you are still waiting for a dramatic shift, look smaller. The doorway may be disguised as a quiet walk, as one deep breath before hitting send, as a journal entry written while the mind whispers, what's the point? Because the truth is, your next shift won't arrive like a parade. It will slip in quietly, like a whisper, like a rhythm, like a pebble in still water. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are simply human, taught to underestimate the invisible power of repetition. We've been trained to chase transformation through noise, through extremes, through spectacle. But the real transformation is quiet. It happens in the shadows, in the spaces no one notices. It happens in the signals you send when no one is watching. And those signals are encoded in your habits. Not the ones born of excitement, but the ones you hold to when nothing feels magical. This is where the idea of a quantum trigger reveals itself. Unlike traditional productivity, which treats habits as isolated tasks, quantum habits are vibrational keys. They are tuning forks that recalibrate your entire field. They are not just about what you do, but about who you are while doing it. A quantum trigger is a micro-act, tiny in form, but magnetic in resonance. That, repeated with coherence, unlocks momentum across timelines. It is not about adding more. It is about discovering the right small act and letting it ripple at the right frequency until reality has no choice but to respond. You don't need an overhaul. You need ignition, one ripple, one anchor, one habit that, honored daily, shifts the very center of your being. So how do you find it? You begin gently, with observation, free from judgment. You notice what brings energy, not stimulation, not adrenaline, but resonance. Maybe it's 60 seconds of breathing before touching your phone. Maybe it's writing 3 gratitudes each night. Maybe it's placing your hand on your heart and speaking your name with love. These are not tasks. They are anchors. They are declarations. Most people believe their downfall is inconsistency, but in truth, they've never chosen a habit that felt alive, a habit that is more than duty, a habit that feels like homecoming, a reunion with their higher self. That is a quantum trigger. It's not just a practice, it is a doorway. And once opened, it does not only shift 5 minutes, it shifts the field of an entire life. The place most give up is here. They start, they feel good. Then the noise returns. Patterns whisper, the mind insists, this isn't working, and so they stop. Not because they are weak, but because they were conditioned to expect instant proof. But in the quantum, the ripple is real long before the wave can be seen. That's why building quantum habits is not only action, it is trust. It is holding the frequency long enough for the field to harmonize. And if you wonder, is 1 minute enough? Let me say it clearly. 1 minute of pure presence outweighs 10 hours of scattered effort. One conscious breath can redirect your trajectory, because in that moment, you are no longer reacting. You are creating. So if you feel overwhelmed, stop aiming for bigger. Aim for smaller, but deeper. Here's your beginning ritual. Choose one habit that takes less than 2 minutes. Choose one act that aligns with your next level self. Then ask, can I show up for this today as if it already matters? Can I hold this simple practice as if it were sacred? If the answer is yes, you've already sent your ripple. Return to it tomorrow. Return to it the next day, and again the day after that. Not for outcome, not for applause, but for resonance. Because when the field feels your consistency without grasping, it softens, it opens. That's when timelines bend. That's when synchronicities multiply. That's when you rise into the frequency of a future that once felt far away. And if you're ready to ground this, anchor it now. Declare it. One small shift, one big ripple. Not to impress the outside world, but to align with the version of you already alive inside that ripple. Let this single act become your declaration. To yourself, to the field, to the future that is listening. Let it be the first wave of a new reality forming around you. Because you don't need to move the mountain. You only need to move your signal. And that begins with one small sacred action. Repeat it until the universe cannot help but echo it back. In the next moments, we'll step deeper into this truth. You'll see why the field doesn't measure your effort, but how you hold your effort. You'll see how frequency, not force, becomes the language your reality speaks. There is no such thing as a silent act. No gesture is invisible. Every breath, every choice, every micro decision, the field records it all. It does not need your words. It does not respond to your hustle. It responds only to frequency. And the frequency of your habits, your daily choices, your quiet repetitions, that is the true language of creation. We've been taught to think the universe notices us only when we shout, when we cry out in desperation, when we finally do something big enough to deserve attention. But the truth is far more subtle. The field is not waiting for drama. The field is not listening for volume. It is tuning into coherence. And coherence is never noisy. It is precise. It is grounded. It is steady. So when you pause before reacting, the field notices. When you choose silence instead of gossip, the field expands. When you trade distraction for presence or complaint for gratitude, the fabric of reality shifts beneath you. These moments rarely impress the ego, but to the quantum architecture of your life, they are tectonic. Because the field does not amplify intensity. It amplifies integrity. Your world doesn't change because you force harder. It changes when your signal stabilizes. That stability is born not from endless action, but from alignment repeated, from becoming the version of yourself who no longer needs the outside world to validate your inner frequency. This is the deeper spiritual mechanism behind the ripple effect. It is not about doing a small thing every day. It is about being someone real in every moment. Not perfect, not enlightened, but honest, present, tuned. That is what the field responds to. Not the performance of effort, but the embodiment of truth. Picture this. One person spends 10 minutes repeating affirmations, body tense, eyes flicking to their phone, secretly wondering if it's working. The words are right, but the signal is scattered. Now picture another who spends just 1 minute still, hand on heart, breathing gratitude without needing to prove a thing. Their action is smaller, but their frequency is clear, and clarity always collapses reality faster than chaos. This is the paradox of quantum creation. The field does not reward attachment. Attachment generates static, clogging the current with doubt. But presence, consistent, uncluttered presence, magnifies clarity. And clarity folds potential into form. Here's the truth you already know but sometimes forget. You are always broadcasting. The real question is, what is your signal saying? Do you whisper to the field, "I don't trust this. I need proof. I'll believe it when I see it." Or do you declare, "I am here. I remember. I am aligned"? That is where the ripple begins. Inside the choice to stay rooted in your truth even when no one is clapping. Especially then. Because that is when the field begins echoing your inner state into external shifts. And those shifts rarely arrive as fireworks. They arrive as subtle grace, the release of a tension you've carried too long, a door that opens without announcement, a clarity that feels like peace. Make no mistake, those ripples are becoming waves, because the field is always listening. It listens to how you brush your teeth, how you breathe before you speak, how you walk into a room, how you honor your body when no one is watching. It listens when you resist the scroll, when you drink water with intention, when you stop apologizing for your own light. These are not lifestyle hacks. They are field instructions. And the sharper your instructions become, not through force, but through authenticity, the stronger your magnetism grows. That's when others begin to say, "I can't explain it, but something about you has shifted." That something is coherence. That something is quantum. So if you've ever asked, "Why isn't it working yet?" Stop asking what you're doing. Start asking how you're being. Do your habits carry the imprint of your future self or the residue of an old story? If the answer feels unclear, remember this. The field is not testing you. It is attuning you. It is not withholding. It is preparing. It is not ignoring. It is mirroring. You don't need more evidence. You need more presence. And as we return to the origin of the ripple, your daily now, you will begin to see the future self who already exists inside these choices. You will see the legacy that starts not when the world notices you, but when you stop performing and begin vibrating as the one who already knows. Every wave you've ever sent into the field still echoes. Not one act of alignment has been wasted. Not one breath of presence ignored. Even the days you stumbled, the mornings you woke numb, the steps you skipped, they were never the end. They were part of the ripple, part of the rhythm, reminders that becoming is never linear, but it is inevitable. Legacy is not born the moment others applaud you. It is born in the quiet moments you see yourself clearly, again and again, through the lens of sacred repetition. This is when you realize your reality has never been random. It has always been an echo of what you practiced, quietly, consistently, vibrationally. And there is already a version of you in the future, so real it is calling you closer. A version who no longer forces, no longer seeks proof, no longer rushes the unfolding. That self does not live in reaction, they live in resonance. They do not beg for alignment, they are alignment. And every small choice you make now, every conscious act, every micro habit of coherence is a message to that future self. I'm coming, I remember, I am arriving. But what happens when you lose the signal? When you forget your power and let the old noise take over? Nothing is broken. You are not erased. The wave doesn't vanish. It simply pauses. And the moment you return to presence, it flows again. This is the quantum rhythm. It never asks for perfection, only return, only remembrance, only presence. So if you've ever wondered whether your small habits matter, if you've ever doubted the quiet choices no one sees, let this be your remembering. Every sip of water in gratitude, every breath before you speak, every step taken instead of scrolling, every moment you choose awareness over autopilot. They are not small, they are not nothing. They are seeds planted in the field, watered with frequency, destined to bloom into futures your current self cannot yet imagine. The version of you who already succeeded, they weren't born from a single dramatic breakthrough. They were shaped by waves, tiny, sacred, invisible ripples that began here, that begin now. So pause for a moment, place your hand on your heart, feel the rhythm of your becoming, and if you're ready, leave your declaration below. One small shift, one big ripple. Let that be your message to the field, to your future self, to the universe that is always listening. Because you are not building your life from scratch. You are remembering it into form, one ripple at a time, one sacred act at a time, one signal at a time. This is not self-help. This is quantum identity. This is not routine. It is resonance, and your resonance is your reality.